Get excited, everyone. I finally got my hands on a Hammerhead Karoo 2, and I've decided it's time for an early impressions video. A lot of people see Hammerhead as the great disruptor to the bike GPS industry, here to smash the duopoly of Garmin and Wahoo. So what have they brought to the second generation Karoo, and does it deserve your hard-earned cash? Okay, a couple things just before we kick off. This is an early impressions review. I will be doing a full in-depth video in a couple of months once I've had some more time with it to really get to the bottom of all the features and all the things going on here. So this is the first few weeks as a new ecosystem GPS that I'd never used before. Second, I want to recognize that this is definitely the most hyped bike GPS of all time. When it was launched, I remember hearing everyone from GCN to Lance Armstrong talking about this thing. So expectations were high and I got absolutely bombarded with requests to get one for review. Then Hammerhead got in touch with me and sent me one. So I'm excited to be able to actually do this. So let's talk about what a premium experience this is. Hammerhead has done a lot of work making the packaging solid and just nice to handle. There's a real sort of premium vibe going on just getting this thing out of the box. The hardware too is nice and sleek with fairly minimal branding except for the sort of logo just at the top of the unit here. And the bezels are fairly small for a bike GPS, not really small compared to a phone, but definitely small for this market category. The slim form factor is really nice and it puts me in mind of the Garmin Edge 1030, which I did really enjoy using. The only thing that's not very premium is this dinky little charge port cover here. It's a removable piece of rubber. They send you two. I've already lost one, but thankfully you can buy these for like a few cents on like eBay and Amazon. But yeah, I don't think that's a very good piece of design, and it does sort of detract a little bit from the premium feeling. It is a $630 GPS after all, and yeah, that really doesn't feel like it. The screen is an interesting one because I've always had a fairly consistent stance that I am not a fan of touchscreen bike GPSs, but that's more to do with the fact that most touchscreen GPSs are just too small to be easy to use. Things like the Garmin Edge 830 and the Brighton Rider 750 are really good examples of that. They are actually fairly decent touch screens, but they're just too damn small. The Karoo 2 is 3.2 inches, and that means that most things are big enough to be quite easy to sort of poke at when you're out riding on the bike, and it is a very good touch screen. Even typing on the keyboard isn't too bad. It's a little bit on the fiddly side, but you sort of get used to it. The drawbacks are much the same as other touchscreen GPSs as well. For starters, it's dull. You need the backlight on pretty much all the time to be visible. 20% in low light is sort of the comfortable point. 50% in full sunlight is where the backlight needs to be for easy visibility. That's just a universal thing across all touchscreens. And secondly, it's completely befuddled and useless if you're wearing full finger gloves. Just can't do anything. But thankfully, they have used little buttons on the side to mean that you can sort of get through the unit and still operate it without having to rely solely on the touch screen. I really like that on the Brighton as well. That is the way to properly implement a touch screen. Don't make everything reliant on it, and it just makes your life much easier. It's funny how familiar the Karoo 2 feels as a user of Pixel smartphones. That Android operating system it feels safe and sort of familiar to me. And I felt the same thing when I used the Explorer X5 Evo, which was also built on Android. You get things like the swipe down menu, the same sort of familiar style keyboard, and it does just remind you that the GPS market could probably do more to take inspiration from other things like smartphones. Hammerhead has done a really good job with the menu system. Everything's quite easy and intuitive, and there's really not that many menu layers. You're only a couple of presses away from the things that you would want to do. So setting up the unit from scratch was really easy and painless. On battery life, Hammerhead is the first company I know to actually publish expected battery life under normal use cases as you in the world are going to use the GPS. So they claim 12 hours based on a sort of medium battery usage, and I'll just sort of put that over the screen for a second so you can see what that is. My experiences were roughly similar. I would say around 11 hours is more reasonable based on what I did, which was have the touchscreen at about 50%. I also had multiple sensors, and I did run a lot of routes and navigation as well. So So 10 to 11 hours is a fine result for a flagship GPS. The bike GPS market is a little bit weird. The good battery life is all found in the mid-range, in the units that don't have the big power-hungry features like a touch screen. Things like the Lezyne Mega XL, Garmin Edge 530, fantastic battery life. They will walk circles around this unit. That's just kind of how the market is. It's on par with things like the Garmin Edge 1030, which I've used before. So it doesn't really stand out as good or bad. It is just on trend for battery life of a flagship. The connectivity is a bit of an oddball thing in the Karoo 2, particularly as an Australian. It does have Bluetooth connectivity, but that mainly functions for your sensors. There is no phone app management of the device. It is literally just there to get notifications onto your head unit. So you are reliant on Wi-Fi connection or cellular network to do things like ride uploading with this. It has a SIM card slot just in here, but you know, where I'm from in Australia, we don't really buy a lot of SIM cards for single devices like this. Maybe something like an iPad or a tablet, but generally a bike GPS is just not worth the expense of getting its own SIM card for. We also don't have great regional coverage in a lot of areas, and only a couple of carriers have regional coverage at all. So I don't really like that, and it's no substitute for having a Bluetooth tether to your phone. So for activity uploading, you either need to do it on your home Wi-Fi, or you can hotspot to your phone and it will sort of communicate it up into the cloud. From a maps routing and navigation perspective, I've been generally very impressed with the Karoo 2. There have been a couple of little issues though. Going back to the screen, looks fantastic. Maps look excellent. I really enjoy having the map on sort of the bottom 2/3 of the screen and data on the top third. I find that's my favorite way to ride. Following a route is nice. They put a big yellow line and you get turn-by-turn directions. Great. When it works, it's great. I did have a little problem with a route one day where the routing engine basically crashed and it just kind of freaked out and got stuck in this infinite rerouting mode, and I didn't get any turn-by-turn notifications. Hammerhead actually diagnosed that as the problem, and they said it's something they're going to take note of for a future firmware update, which is a good thing. I had another little quirk where I turned the device off then on again during a ride. The first half has kind of gotten stuck on the head unit, and this is a known issue with Hammerhead, and they are going to firmware fix that as well. So you have to manually upload, it just won't upload the first half through the phone connection. The mount is very interesting to look at. It's certainly ugly when the device is not in it, but I do like how it slides in and clicks very firmly. It is easy to get in and out, but as I said, looks a bit Gumby when it's on your bike without the unit in it. They do actually send you a little Garmin adapter that you can slide onto the back of the unit so you can use all of your Garmin mounts as well. That's a really nice touch. I appreciate that. That is helpful because they don't send you a standard bar or stem mount, only an out front. My early experiences then with the Karoo 2 have been very positive. Not everything's perfect, but there's a lot of good within the ecosystem that I'm enjoying using, and it feels fresh and different, and I really appreciate a new take on the market. Still plenty of things left to test that will come in the final review, but I hope this has been some use to people who are maybe thinking of investing in the near future. There are a few things that are going to require some adjusting, particularly if you're coming across from the Wahoo or Garmin ecosystem. Not everything is exactly where you want it to be. Some things are better and they're steps forward. Some things are a little bit confusing. So just do your research, make sure you're buying based on the full knowledge of the unit itself. And that is where I'm going to leave it. Feel free to watch all the other nerdy GPS stuff I've got going on in the account. Always appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget to ride safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.